At Westminster Live, consequently. Tweet us at #GMFB. Beautiful views, beautiful weather. It was a little bit gloomy, but now there's some sunshine.
Look at that. That's a view. It's unbelievable. You look at yourself in the property?
Yes.
Yes.
This is an entire vibe, this entire city, and it's about to get turned on its head as fans make their way to London to support either the Jaguars or, of course, the Super Bowl champ Eagles.
That's right, and we're already seeing the fans kind of make their way here. We see the jackets, the jerseys, the hats. It's about to go down.
I saw my first Philly fan in the street this morning. I took a walk around 6 a.m. He's like, Schrager!
Yeah.
Shh, they don't do it like that here. You gotta be a little more proper. He's
Too
like,
loud.
Go! And I'm like, no.
I heard that they're greasing down the red phone booths so that if the Eagles fans can't climb them, they're greasing them with Crisco. Got to do it.
What were you doing out and about at 6 in the morning?
I went out. I had a nice little stroll.
You went to get coffee, didn't you?
No, he went and got some plums and some fruit for the morning ride.
Is that true?
I wanted to give the morning flavor for the show.
You listen to Peter's takes, you know he's got the plums, baby. Always. Always. Somebody's got to.
And on that note, with fruit humor, we will bring you guys into the lead block. Guys,
lead block.
I love us in London. I'm just going to say that. We are less than 24 hours after the Giants lost in Atlanta, and they dealt a former first-round pick to New Orleans. Eli Apple headed to the Saints in exchange for a fourth and a seventh, I do believe, in the 2019 NFL Draft. Let's send it over to Pat Shurmur on why the Giants made the decision.
Can you talk a little bit about the background to the Eli Apple trade?
Listen, we're trying to win every game we play, and we're doing what we can right now to win football games, but we're also always looking at the roster on a short-term and a long-term basis, and we felt like we were, it was good value, and Eli's played well for us here this year, and, he's going to be a Saint now, and so we wish him well.
Was he not playing that well?
No, I think he was competing and doing good things. I think he's much like all the players. There's a player or two each week you'd like to have back, but he was competing.
How do you message this to the team when you talk to them about just not throwing in the towel? I'm sure that's not something you want them to do or think that the team is doing right now.
We're not throwing in the towel. This will give an opportunity for some young players and newer players to have an opportunity to play. Plus, as we, kind of look at this thing moving forward, we'll have a draft pick, actually 2 draft picks, one next year and then certainly one in 2020 in value.
With Eli Apple gone, just 5 of the 33 picks the Giants made between 2012 and 2016 are still on the roster. Nate, I got to send it to you here. Thoughts on the continued tumult in New York and with Eli Apple?
Well, listen, it's tough to talk about this team being 1-6, but, him being one of the top picks in his draft, first-round pick, and a lot of drama going on over the last couple of years, I would just button this up by saying for the young players in this league, I don't care if you're a first-rounder or a free agent, just be careful. Be careful who you rub the wrong way. Oftentimes, as players, you feel like, I'm privileged, and it's your honor to have me. I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want, even family members getting involved. I always heard when I was young, don't rock the boat. Make more plays than you make noise, and oftentimes things will work out. When you start getting traded away, it's a big deal. And in my opinion, it's usually on the players, not the organization.
And the Saints on the receiving end being a bit aggressive, right? They want some depth on their defense. They want a guy like Eli Apple because they see themselves as contenders. So I asked the breakfast table this morning, plums aside, gentlemen, let's talk about
We're talking apples and plums.
Which apples and plums, all of them. They lost in Georgia Peachland, all of the fruits, all of them.
Nicely done.
Thank you. So our password here is pineapple on our thing. It all comes full circle. But which contender do you wish or do you hope will be aggressive as the trade deadline approaches?
I'll start off with the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. I felt like their loss was the worst of any teams last week. You could talk about the Titans, how bad their loss was, the Giants. The Eagles were up 17 points in their building as defending champions and lost. And, the Super Bowl hangover has been something we've been talking about a lot. The Super Bowl hangover.
Okay.
It's like, you get excited. They were all writing books. They were all having a blast. I bring that over to London.
All right, go on.
So I've got right here what I call
What is that?
a vitamin.
Okay,
right?
Not a vitamin.
A vitamin.
I love how they say that.
I asked our wonderful hairstylist, Emma, I said, Emma, what do you call it when you have a big night out? And she said, you're going on the Raz.
The Raz?
Oh,
You're going on the Raz.
You mean going on a bender?
Going on a bender.
Oh, boy, here we go.
The Eagles went on the Raz.
7:05 a.m.
So what do?
You mean all off season?
All off season.
Okay, they're on the Raz.
Yes. Give it
Victory tour.
This is called a vitamin. You put it in your drink.
Okay. Oh, it's fizzy.
It fizzes up.
Okay.
It's on the Raz.
Go on.
Eagles, this is for you, Eagles fans. You shake it up.
Shake it up.
And right now
Shake up things.
is when we get better.
Oh.
And we heal.
Oh.
The Eagles need to make a move. Patrick Peterson is on the block. There are a lot of Raiders that can be had. The Eagles need to do what they did last year when they went and got Jay Ajayi. They need to find their groove. This weekend, they play the Jaguars. If they lose, it could be all she's wrote.
Will you pour some in mine before you do?
I'll give you some of that. I'll give you some.
Hey now.
This stuff.
Hey now.
That's called hair of the dog. Perfect
That's
for the
it,
Eagles.
exactly. But for all seriousness, the Eagles need to be players right now because that's what Howie Roseman made his bones on last year, and they need to get going with it. No more on the Raz. It's already October. We're almost in November. Let's get it going.
Take a vitamin.
No more Ben dust.
How about it, Peter? I'm going to look at a very, very American team. I'm going to look at the Green Bay Packers. Packers right now just feel like they're kind of just floating. They're just sitting there without an identity. And I feel like something's coming for this team. Good, bad, otherwise. Even their record feels like it's counting down to something. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
What are you? I'll tell you what they are.
Sure.
They're a huge, huge underdog going to the Rams this weekend. So let's say the Packers lose.
You're kidding.
3, 3, and 1, 8.5 points. Then they're in the bye week, all right? Midlife. And I look at the Packers right now. Packers are about 47. They got a really good job. That's Rodgers. They're a little puffy. They're a little chubby. They got kids running around. And most of the nights with their wife and with handing them a remote, a dry kiss, and a little rollover, just like that. That's how the nights end. I wouldn't know anything about it. They need a splash. They need a splash. They need to be skydiving, bungee jumping, start a vineyard, do something to get your groove back. I'm talking Le'Veon Bell trade. I'm talking Patrick Peterson trade. Something to wake this team up because, guys, after the bye, they're going to New England. Then they're going to Seattle. This is going to be when we find out if the greatest player in this game, Aaron Rodgers, has the greatest family and the greatest life. Do some CrossFit. Do a cord cut, whatever. Keep NFL Network. But they need something to get their groove back. And I think they could trade for it, Kate. You know what I'm saying? Some sizzle. A little bit of sizzle.
They need that red sports car.
Yeah, they need to go on the Raz. T-top Trans Am.
Jesus. They're in like a weird purgatory, and I think we're all disappointed because they shouldn't be. We know how talented Aaron Rodgers is. We want to see him deep into the playoffs, if not make it all the way to the Super Bowl. So I totally agree with you. Get him some of that vitamin.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Well, for me, I'm looking at the Jaguars.
Okay.
And the Jags are one of those teams that last year, they found themselves. All of a sudden, they became one of the more popular teams. It's similar to me right now raising a 14-year-old boy. Nate is going into high school, and he's finding himself. But there's times where I see he looks at himself as still that little kid. And I'm like, no, you're about to be a man. In 4 years, you'll be 18 and out of my house. I need you to start looking at yourself like that. I don't need you to talk yourself into being a man. Just learn about life, and when you get there, you'll know it. Seems like the Jaguars, they talked themselves into believing that they were the man. Yeah. Like they were the big dogs. Like they were ready to conquer their jungle. Only to realize that they're still little cubs. So I feel like these guys need to shake things up, just like we're all saying here. And I mentioned yesterday, you go ahead and send Blake Bortles to the Saints. You get Bridgewater to come to the Jags. It's the perfect situation. Now you got Mid-season. Now you got Bridgewater, who's intelligent, been in 3 systems, 3 different years, so you know he has the high IQ. He's going to be able to run that offense, and you get him for a cheap price because he still is dealing with that injury looming over his head. Blake Bortles goes to the Saints. He sits behind a legend, learns from Drew Brees. It's never too late to learn, and you put him in a position where he has to fight for his job again with Taysom Hill, who we know they love with the Saints, and you work in a draft pick or two right there. I feel like everybody wins, and I love Blake Bortles. And the reason I'm saying, listen, you might need a new place.
Bridgewater's one thing. Would you go for Eli if you're the Jaguars? Would you trade for Eli?
Oh, come on.
No. Why? What about Eli's play?
2 Super Bowl rings and veteran experience. You'd rather have Bridgewater than Eli?
Listen, I'd rather have a young player who might be just a tad bit more mobile with that knee injury over Eli.
I think I'd rather have Bridgewater than Eli. What do you think?
I think a Jaguars team that has all the pieces on defense and doesn't have that veteran leader under center, I would maybe go with Eli and say, just take us there through the playoffs.
Isn't there a sense, too, from Marone that I'm not here for this BS. I feel like Marone is over it. He's not in love with Bortles, never has been, and he's not ashamed of hiding it either. He benched him in the middle of a game, so I think they're capable of anything.
You know what else is cool about London? Is that in America, when you bring up the Patriots, whether it's on Good Morning Football or on the street or at a bar, it's, the Patriots, they always win. People in London love the Patriots. They love the champions. Oh, I've seen more Brady jerseys than anything over here across the pond. So I will say the Patriots, and I will not get any grievances from anybody in this building or in the city on beautiful River Thames, that they should go get some help on defense. They need a corner because people are sleeping on the fact that they're giving up 300 yards a game passing, like pretty much every week the past 3. If you're looking at even just back to last year and that Super Bowl against the Eagles. They have defense, they had offense, the Eagles did, but they got lit up. They got totally lit up. If they had another corner, like a Patrick Peterson,
Yeah.
Just saying.
Okay. Out there.
Out there, like on their squad, they would be built. They'd be built to go. I don't.
They've done it. They signed, Darrell Revis. They made a big move.
Yeah.
They've done it in the past.
But to me, it's not even about the past. It's about right now, because you're telling me they are supposed to go up against one of those offensive, high-octane, high-powered situations brewing in the NFC and be able to stop them. They're going to need another corner, so I hope that they go out and get help.
See, I would have thought after a couple centuries the British would still have resentment against the Patriots.
They weirdly don't. The people here love
Too
the
soon.
Patriots.
They're over it? Okay.
Harry Kane named his, pretty much the most famous
Arsenal is
athlete
basically
out
the
of
Patriots out
England.
here.
What do you name?
People they resent.
His dog's named Brady.
Brady.
His dog is named Brady.
My favorite Patriot, Thomas Jefferson, though.
Yeah.
Come on, now, guys.
I feel you.
Right? I like Brady and everything.
All right, the Dolphins visit the Texans on Thursday Night Football. You can see that right here on NFL Network. And our guy, Omar Ruiz, has more on the Texans, where it sounds like there may be a bit of a rivalry brewing between a key wideout and a corner.
Good morning, Kay. What an opportunity for Xavier Howard, who's tied for the league in interceptions this season. He's playing in his hometown of Houston for the first time in his NFL career, and he gets a shot on national television against one of the league's best receivers in DeAndre Hopkins, of which he had this to say earlier in the week.
I just watched the film this morning, and I watched the Jaguars. I see he like push off a lot too, so he like to get physical, so they're gonna be part of his game. He can make some hell of a catches.
So yesterday I asked DeAndre Hopkins if he was aware of those comments. He said yes. I asked him what he thought about those comments. He replied by telling me, who's Xavier Howard? Perhaps adding a little more juice to one of the game's already most intriguing matchups. It should be noted that DeAndre Hopkins has yet to be called for any offensive pass interference penalties. Should be fun to watch tomorrow night. For now, let's send it back to you in London, Kay.
Thanks so much, Omar. Wish you were here. Talk to you throughout the week, leading into that exciting Thursday night matchup to kick off Week 8. All right, looking at the longest active streaks right here in the NFL. The Texans won 4 straight. It's an impressive turnaround from their 0-3 start to the season. Are we buying the Texans now? They've won 4 straight. They've beaten the Colts. That went to overtime. They have a win over the Cowboys, the Bills, and the Jags. I'm going to say yes because their defense has been great. They are ranked 8th now. I questioned how much of an impact J.J. Watt would have on a defense. One sole player coming off an injury, but he's back and they look good. If you look at their schedule, it's pretty favorable, at least as far as that division is concerned.
Yeah, no question. I think when thinking about buying things, the first thing that comes to mind is Peter Schrager, right, in the Arsenal gift shop.
Yeah.
What did he have in his possession?
What didn't he have? He bought a rubber ducky, a soccer ball,
shirts,
a calendar, a shower curtain. He bought an Arsenal shower curtain.
Sterling silver sport.
Yeah, here it is.
He bought it.
Peter.
The scarf, and he actually, this is before he walked over to
Like Julia Roberts' Pretty Woman moment.
Big mistake.
This is huge. This is before he walked over to get a customized Peter Schrager soccer jersey.
That they hand-delivered to the
With his name on the back.
Press it right in front of you. All right, I know because I bought it for the kids. But listen, I'll say this. I'm looking at the Texans, and I'm saying, okay, all right, how can I relate this to Peter Schrager's shopping experience? I feel like J.J. Watt. He's a scarf, right? Because he's wrapped around every quarterback's neck. Who's the jacket? The jacket that you can go to, you know is always going to be there. That's DeAndre Hopkins, right?
Yeah.
Of course. And the jersey, the face of the organization for the future moving forward is Deshaun Watson. I'm sorry, all these names are getting mixed up.
Love it.
And then what's the rubber ducky, though? Because it seems like, why
I bought a rubber ducky. I did.
Ridiculous.
You did?
Like, but then
You actually
might go
bought. I still
home.
don't believe it.
You might go
it.
home
I'll bring it in tomorrow.
You might sit
Bring in
in
the
bath,
ducky, Peter.
and you'll think to yourself,
We like touches.
Yeah.
I'm taking a bath tonight, and this rubber ducky might be the best purchase I've ever had. It's not for a male, and I feel like Tyrann
my
Matthew is
God.
the rubber ducky.
I think
And
so,
that's
too.
it. So I feel like, yeah, I'm buying everything that Peter bought for the Houston Texans because they have all the pieces right now, and they're just heating up.
That's great. That's
Peter,
great.
you named a star after someone, too, at the store, right?
Did you?
named it after one of their players. Anything you could pay for, Peter bought. Named a star.
How much popcorn did you guys buy last night?
We were purchased the popcorn by our boss.
Oh,
You should,
really?
you should,
free.
you should
Thanks,
see the Arsenal-themed mouse pad I own.
Oh, that's great,
I don't even
Peter.
have a PC anymore.
You in? You buying
Mouses don't even
the
exist
Texans or
anymore.
not?
I am waiting on buying the Texans because of the games you told me. They were none of those teams were against teams that are going to be winning the Super Bowl. I'll tell you that right now. And I also think the Texans have burned me before. They've gone to playoff games where they wear Letterman jackets to New England and they get the doors blown off them. Like, this is a team that's history is good team, playoff contender, playing a Saturday random wild card weekend game on ESPN against Cincinnati, win, and then get blown out by one of the contenders. Let's see them do this over the course of a long span. Will they beat the Dolphins? I think so. Is that enough for me? Not yet.
The Dolphins and the Redskins are the only two teams that they're facing in the final 9 games that have winning records right now. Their schedule is delicious.
I think it is too. And Peter, those games, those are playoff games. You know what I mean? Those Saturday games, we're not talking about the Texans who win a Super Bowl, but we haven't seen them in the playoffs in a long time. I think they have the best receiver in football right now. And I don't think we've sold it enough as a show. J.J. Watt, we love him as a philanthropist and a face of the league.
Personality.
Never mind all that for a second. Put it aside. Pass rusher, monster, he's back. 11 sacks. That's why I buy it.
I would need okay, so let's say they're playing the Dolphins. Brock Osweiler, their old quarterback who was kicked out of town. I need to see a nice 20-point victory tomorrow, a big step on your throat win. I don't want to see any more 16-13 win. Let's see that.
Are you impressed with what you've seen out of Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, the last month has been good.
Because I feel like he's still getting better and better every week, and that also gives me confidence.
Yeah, look, he's got a punctured lung. Right? He's traveling on a bus for 13 hours both ways. It's amazing what he's doing. Am I putting him in a game against Brady and saying he's going to go win in Foxborough? Not yet.
Those jackets really rubbed you.
The Letterman jackets were...
But you bought an Arsenal Letterman jacket.
So we're all buying the Texans, and you have them in the little shopping cart in the upper right-hand corner.
Exactly. I haven't checked out.
Is in his bag, right?
It's in my bag.
All right, Deshaun Watson and Houston take in his yard.
How big is that yard?
It's a big yard. And then this is the Duke, and then does he invite them in afterwards for leg of mutton and sliced lamb? I love that stuff. I mean, there should be archers and chainmail. That really gets me in the mood.
It's kind of crazy.
It's cool, medieval times. Right, yes. Pretty much.
Whenever we see Instagrams, though, of Tom Brady and he's in Montana, they do that there, too. They draw the lines.
That's
How crazy is that?
It makes a field in Costa Rica on the beach. It's unbelievable.
But you shared a story yesterday about the Patriots.
All right, so there's a public park.
Hyde Park, right by our hotel.
Right
across
our hotel.
Central Park.
Is this an urban myth?
This is not urban myth. This is fact. 2 years ago, the Patriots
Imagine
came
Central
here.
Park fenced.
Imagine Central Park. Imagine Grant Park in Chicago. The Patriots are playing here, and Belichick was supposed to go an hour and a half to some park to practice. He said, no, screw it. They jumped over the fence, and they practiced in a public park. And from what I'm told, they just had a full practice in a public park, and no one bothered them. The New England Patriots. That was it. They climbed a fence in practice.
The New England Patriots.
Incredible.
Nobody bothered them.
In America, that would not be the case.
That would not be okay.
We got them practicing with a castle.
I kind of don't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. It's so crazy, it just might be true.
It probably is.
We don't have castles.
Sure
We have Matt Castle, and then we have the one with the sliders, right? That's all we got. They got a lot of them here, though. That's pretty cool.
You've seen a White Castle here?
No, in home, I mean.
All right, let's look at ahead to Sunday's matchup at Wembley. What is at stake for the Eagles and the Jags?
Well, this is two teams trying to create their identity and figure out who they are. The Eagles catching the rhythm. Jaguars haven't found one thus far, losing recently and not showing people that they can score points on offense.
And it'll be Week 8 in London at Wembley. Eagles, Jaguars, 9:30 a.m. Eastern on NFL Network. Peter Schrager, Melissa Stark will be on the sideline. Kyle and I will be handling pregame duties right here only on NFL Network. Eisen calling the game in this one. So it'll be a lot of fun with all of your faves right here on NFL Network all day Sunday.
This game is fascinating, Kay, because the NFL Network part's cool. We've got Eisen, we've got Kurt Warner, Mooch, Irvin. Everyone's involved. That's great. And it's only on NFL Network at 9:30 a.m. What's really interesting is that I feel like the loser should just stay here, right? Like, these teams are at crossroads right now, and the winner is now suddenly given new life and new blood in their division and their life. You lose another one, it's like, all right, the conference is going on without you. You might as well stay here in London. Like, this is a desperation game. I thought when the schedule came out, this is going to be a team that's 6-1 versus a team that's 5-2, and it's like big. Instead, it's almost more intriguing because it's like desperation mode.
Yeah, you know what it is? It feels like we have a playoff game in London because to your point, if you lose, what's at stake here? Irrelevance. You're done. I mean, we don't talk about, and I'm talking about the Eagles too, and the Eagles used to preach about these teams that would win a Super Bowl and then go away. If you lose this game, I think you are that team. And I guess the Jacksonville Jaguars golden era was 1 year because it was last year and it was awesome. You can't lose this game. It's a playoff game.
Nate, these two teams almost met in the Super Bowl last year.
They almost met, and this is the perfect game for the Jags. Listen, all that talk, if you beat a team like this that's hot, the Eagles, yeah, you'll get your identity back.
All right, let's send it over to Will Sullivan. Welcome him in this morning. Happy Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday.
Yeah, happy Wednesday. You guys are enjoying London. I love seeing it. You guys went to a movie premiere after going to a Premier League game. You guys are living the life.
Yep.
It's awesome. No rest for you guys. I'm living vicariously through you. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, back in the States, there was only one winning ticket in the $1.6 billion Mega Millions drawing. Sadly, I don't possess it. The Cowboys fan base is feeling its own sense of disappointment as if the team gave away $1.6 billion for wide receiver Amari Cooper, giving up a first-round pick seen as a steep price to pay for Cooper. The Cowboys offering more than anybody else. NFL Network's Mike Silver, in fact, reporting the Eagles offered a second-round pick. Head coach Jason Garrett defending the team's decision to acquire Cooper, who has struggled the past 2 seasons.
He's a young player. He's 24 years old. He has all the physical traits you want. He has all the intangible character qualities that you want. He has production in the league. So you say, okay, when you're drafting this position, this guy is like a draft pick. This guy was a top 5 draft pick. If you're in the draft next year, are you going to be able to get a player of this quality at this position?
When Patrick Peterson's reported desire to be traded out of Arizona became public, apparently there were teams lined up to land the Pro Bowl corner. The New York Daily News reporting the Saints, Eagles, and Patriots showed interest, according to the paper. Peterson will not end up with the Jets, barring a miracle. Now, one person showing keen interest in Peterson is Steelers wide receiver Antonio Brown. AB tweeting out, quote, automatic chip P2 to the Steelers. And can you imagine a secondary that has Joe Hayden and Patrick Peterson? That, my friends, would be scary.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Board Knocks!
Hey, Board Knocks!
Board Knocks!
Nathaniel Burleson III, why don't you start us off with a Shakespearean sonnet just for the audience?
Cheers, me good mate. All right, here we go. One of my favorite storylines is what's happening with the Dolphins, all right? With Ryan Tannehill being sidelined from injury, Brock Osweiler handed the keys to the Dolphins' kingdom, and a bit of a quarterback controversy. So, for my Shakespeare play, I thought I'd tell a story about a king who is trying to find the next leader for his kingdom. With no further ado, here's a reading from King Osweiler.
Ah, Osweiler.
I will be playing the role of Ryan Tannehill. And here we go. Unhappy that I am, I cannot heave a ball into his hands. I love your victories. Following my injury, no more, no less. Good, my Brock. You have begot me, bred me, loved me. I return those duties. Back up are right fit. Obey you, love you, and most back up you. Why have the Finns if they say Brocktober? As they don my 17, the Finn who wears my jersey, half my snaps with him, half my yards and TDs. Sure, my shoulders shall continue to ache. I shall return to the field once more.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
I love tracking the 12 different accents.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Up and down.
Thank you. Cheers. Cheers,
Fully,
darling.
Nate will steal this hat.
Yes.
Wear this in New York City.
It'll be on a red carpet sometime.
Believe that.
I thought all this just came from Nate's closet. It's real Nate's real clothes.
Oh, man.
Ms. Adams, please, will you do us the honor?
I will go next. Listen, we're all going to be at the Jags-Eagles game this Sunday here in London at Wembley. We cannot wait. One of the most intriguing stories is between Blake Bortles and Cody Kessler. Who would have thought, right? It reminds me of a play about 2 friends who fall in love with the same girl. But in this version, we have 2 quarterbacks who both fall in love with the same starting spot. So for my He masters you, and he is that for you. By a backup, methinks you should not be chronicled for wise. Maroon!
Maroon! Wow, Kay got into it. They got into it. Nice job, Adams. Well done.
One more time.
Roses, come on.
Relinquished.
With a dab.
It's a dab.
Shakespearean dab.
Road.
Shakespeare dabbed.
All right, Peter.
Peter,
What do you got?
it's on you. Bring us home.
Perhaps there was no bigger storyline this week. I'm reading it in an English accent. than the reshaping of the Raiders roster by new head coach John Gruden. Everyone who's in is out. As the leader of the Raiders for at least the next decade, Gruden is a ruling of the organization, and he's doing it with an iron fist.
Oh. Yeah.
I don't want to use the word tyrant, but he's a tyrant consumed by power, which is about as Shakespearean as it gets. Instead of Richard III, I will bring you Gruden the First.
All right, here we go.
So here's my soliloquy performed by Mr. Chucky himself, Richard III. Now is the season of our discontent made ominous by the son of Davis and all the clouds that lowered upon our house in the deep bosom of the black hole. Now are our rosters bound with nervous players. Our defense hung up for given already with bruised monuments. Our stars changed to hopeful draft picks. Our stadium will be moved to Las Vegas. Grim Visage losses hath revealed our true talents, and now instead of raising up Lombardis to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, we trade nimbly in a front office chamber to the lascivious playing of an autumn wind. But I, that am not shaped for supportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous public review.
Hey, Peter! Found it! Found that started. Feel good?
I got there. Felt good.
Richard III?
Richard III.
Oh my God.
It's all crippled up. Like,
He's got a sword.
He's got a sword. Everyone hates him.
Man.
John Gruden, it turns out all right. I think you win here. It doesn't turn out that good. Richard III, it ain't that good.
All right.
Richard III doesn't end well.
I'll wrap things up. Let's get right to my monologue. I'm going to talk about the ultimate Shakespearean drama, and that is officiating. Officiating, right? Will I read something from Macbeth, or will it be Taming of the Crew? No. I'll go with the ultimate. TD or not TD? That is the question, whether 'tis nobler on the field to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous cause, or to raise arms against a sea of officials, and by opposing end them to cry, to weep no more, and to whistle we end the heartache and the thousand what is a catch cries that refs are heir to. 'Tis an officiation devoutly to be wished, to reverse, to uphold, to score, perchance to win. Aye, that's the rub. For in that final quarter, what results may come when coaches have thrown the flag of challenges must give us pause. There's the review that makes the calamity of so long life. Bravo! Bravo! Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of all of us, the cast. Come on, bring it in, everybody. Bring it in. And down, and we bring out the sign down and again.
Someone throw me roses.
The orchestra pit, please. They're the real heroes.
The orchestra.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Wow.
We'll be back after this. Good morning. Football is here in London, but we are, of course, on top of everything going on over stateside, especially in New York, where we regularly do our show. And let's bring in Ian Rappaport. Sir Ian, if you will, at Rapspeed on Twitter, breaking some news on a Wednesday. What's going on with the Giants?
Well, the Giants are now in rebuilding mode, trading another one of their big-time players, I am told. Damon Snacks Harrison, their standout defensive tackle and one of the linchpins of their defense, is being traded to the Detroit Lions for a 5th-round pick. Now, obviously, for the Giants, this is the second big trade they've made in 2 days. Eli Apple, former first-rounder, he went to the New Orleans Saints for a 4th-rounder and change back yesterday. But this is an even bigger move. This was one of their big-time stars on defense, a huge free agent acquisition, and someone who simply held it down in the middle. Now he goes to Detroit, which obviously started slow, but has come on strong. And general manager Bob Quinn and coach Matt Patricia just feeling like this is a player who could come in and solidify their defense for the Giants, a rebuild. But for Detroit, potentially, this is one of the pieces that will put them over going forward.
Eli Apple to the Saints, Snacks Harrison to the Lions. Appreciate you, Ian Rappaport. We'll be talking to you all throughout the day. As you say, they are rebuilding, and they might not be done necessarily. So keep it here on NFL Network and with the Rap Sheet for the latest back here in London. Let's break it down here. I think Eli, I think Damon Snacks, I think there's a lot of teams around the Football League that should be calling about Landon Collins and Eli Manning.
I don't think any defensive player on the Giants is safe right now. I've been talking to GMs the last couple of days. I told you yesterday on the show that it's going to be a buyer's market. Which team want players? Teams that are in the bottom of the standings are going to be selling off guys. But remember, Dave Gettleman inherited Snacks. He inherited Eli Apple. He inherited Landon Collins. He inherited all these guys, and Pat Shurmur wasn't their coach when they got him. Jerry Reese was the guy who drafted all these players and signed them to big free agent deals. Right. This is just the start. And if you're the Giants and you're a Giants fan, good, because it's time to start bringing in new guys. That locker room's a mess.
If you're the Chiefs, do you not pick up the phone and say, hey, who do you got on defense? Would you give us Landon Collins, and for what?
Yeah, I would love to have Landon Collins in the second year if I'm the Chiefs. And if I'm a Lions fan, this blows my hair back right now. Because I know wide receivers and running backs win fantasy titles, D tackles, offensive guards win division titles. This is really big. Under Matt Patricia, they've won 3 and 4. They are coming into the meat of the division schedule. Snacks Harrison, first team All-Pro, not Pro Bowler. This is bad news for the Vikings, for the Packers, for the Bears. Huge day for the Lions. I love this move.
No question. I'm not sure if the Giants want to part ways with Landon Collins. Still, to me, one of the better safeties in the business. He is a young star, and it's kind of one of those guys that anchors this defense. And you want those guys to stick around for quite some time. But when looking at this deal, you get Snacks Harrison going to the Lions for a 5th-round draft pick. For a 5th-round draft pick. That what kind of it shouts louder than the actual trade itself.
Talk about it.
It doesn't mean that Snacks Harrison isn't worth more. I just feel like it shows a sense of urgency that Shurmur is trying to fix this team in the way that he wants it right now. I know fans are sitting at home saying, this doesn't help us right now. I don't care about this. And why couldn't we get more for Snacks? Snacks is a better player than that. I feel like they want to start removing whatever players that they don't see in their future. And this might not be personality-based. It might not be the fact that Snacks didn't get along with Coach. It could just be the simple fact that they're trying to get guys out so they can start preparing for the future. And this is a good sign. There's not a lot to smile about, but here's the silver lining, if you're a Giants fan, that Shurmur is making moves kind of like what Gruden is doing in Oakland.
If you're from New York.
Yeah.
You grew up around the Giants.
Sure.
If you're a fan, how tough of a pill is that?
Giants fans are looking at it right now saying thank you.
Really?
Get rid of, just start anew. It's over. This crew of guys, remember last year there was so much tumult in that locker room, whether it be Eli Apple or it be Snacks, or just clean. Give us a clean slate. So a 5th-rounder is not a good pick for you. That's a guy who might make the team, might not, probably there as a late-round pick, a day 3 guy. But you're starting anew and you're seeing some sort of direction. What really boggles my mind is that the Giants didn't deal any of these guys before the season.
Yeah.
You know, they come in with this new, fresh stuff. They didn't pick up the phone. They were so slow.
They thought that they had it, though. I think that they really thought that they had it going on. And now you deal...
They were 3-13 a year ago.
You deal a defensive player to the Lions who have, Mr. Laminated play call sheet with the number 2 pencil.
Oh, he'll be fine there, too.
Genius.
What about that price?
Patricia.
We just saw Amari Cooper go for a 1st-round pick.
Crazy.
And you're sitting there, a Giants fan. Snacks is a hell. We got 5th? They couldn't do better than that.
First team All-Pro a couple years ago.
5th-round pick. Traeger, is that rub you wrong, Giants fans?
Late in the season. This is a fire sale, dude. When you go to the garage sale and you see a cool jacket, it ain't going to be full price. It's going to be a 5th-round pick. Crossed out a few times.
Are you telling me the trade deadline is next week, 4 p.m., I think Tuesday, I believe it is, right? Is it going to be active one? A crazy
yeah, this is nuts. This starts now. I'm telling you, throughout the day. I'm promising you action this year.
And you have to keep in mind there's a ton of new head coaches. And the one thing...
And new GMs.
So these guys don't want to be pulled down into the ocean by an anchor of a certain players that they didn't want. So
looking lovely, River Thames. In my opinion, a Hall of Fame river.
It's a good river.
I'm just saying.
One of the best.
Same draft class as Roethlisberger and Eli, but I like the River Thames.
We've got Peter Traeger and Nate Burleson. This is Kyle Brandt. My name is Kay Adams, and we are so excited to be in London. I feel like I've talked for the past 48 hours about how I'm in love with the city. I would move here. I feel like I was meant to be born here. Okay. And it's as if New York heard me say that. It said, time out. Come on back to New York. Remember me. I'm your first love in New York City because that's where we have the big news. Guys, let's bring in Ian Rappaport for the news, of course, on the Giants and Damon Snacks Harrison. What is going on? Ian, take it away.
You mean former Giant Damon Snacks Harrison. Sources say he is being traded to the Detroit Lions, the resurgent Detroit Lions, now 3-3 with another big win recently. He's going over to Detroit for a 5th-round pick. And for the Giants, Peter Schrager mentioned it just a couple segments ago. This is essentially a fire sale now. They've traded Eli Apple to the New Orleans Saints for a 4th and change yesterday. That was one of their big-time players and obviously a former first-rounder there. And now Damon Snacks Harrison, a former big-time free agent acquisition, one of the linchpins of their defense, one of the best run stoppers in the NFL. He goes from the Giants now to Detroit. And if you're wondering, guys, why it's just a 5th rounder, yes, it is a fire sale, and I think teams know the Giants are getting rid of some big talent. But the salary is also important. Let's do $7 million in all. Got a huge salary on the books for next year as well. Oftentimes that brings down the price of a trade.
Eli Apple goes to the Saints for a 4th and a 7th. So I've got to ask you, after this Snacks Harrison trade happening this morning, the trade deadline approaching, it is next week. Are the Giants done?
Today they're probably done because the work week starts and you got to get ready to practice and everything. But they may not be done in general. But I know what you're talking about, Kay. You're talking about the quarterback position. I would not expect Eli Manning to go anywhere. He's got a no-trade clause. That's important. And it just doesn't seem like any of the teams that may need quarterback help, the Jaguars, who are coming to hang out with you guys in a second, it doesn't seem like they're looking in Eli's direction at all. But maybe there are some other players on the Giants who could go. They have some other big-name guys. Landon Collins would be hard to trade because that's one of the guys you'd like to build around. But Janoris Jenkins has a big salary. Another free agent guy like Snacks Harrison. Perhaps if teams are interested, that might be someone who could be available. But either way, it is very clear that the Giants are listening.
And so are Giants fans who are reacting on Twitter. We thank you so much, Ian Rappaport. We'll talk to you throughout the morning here on Good Morning Football in London and throughout the day on NFL Network. I brought up Landon Collins. Listen, even if they don't want to trade him, if you're the Chiefs, you're still making the call. You want to see if he's available. Landon Collins tweeting out, bro.
With a hashtag.
Hashtag. That's going to be turning soon.
Fallout at the table. Blokes? Anybody?
Look, the Giants are 1-6. Yeah. They're playing a really uninspired brand of football.
100%.
The Raiders have one win. They're playing. It's fire sale time. And we don't usually see this in the NFL, but these are new coaches with power, new general managers, new decision makers. And for me, the Giants, I look right down the roster. I mean, you mentioned Landon Collins, a star player. I don't think he's got a contract coming. Are we really going to break the bank on him right now? Or do we say, let's get something for him? Olivier Vernon makes a ton of money. He's one of the highest paid players in football. Yeah. So they start looking at him. The salary is what's huge. $7 million a year. Giants saying, let's get that off the books. Let's start anew. We're not winning anything now.
Got it.
You mentioned Eli, Ian did. There's a lot of players on that roster. I don't think Odell necessarily, but if you're the 49ers, or if you're a team that's young and looking to get some offensive players, do you call and at least make an inquiry about Odell Beckham, who you just signed to this monster deal? I'm just thinking that any of these teams that are at the bottom of the basement, the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Giants, with new coaching staffs, they don't want last year's used goods. Give us fresh, give us new. We'll call it a clean slate, and we'll go from there.
But Shregs, if I had told you, blind resume style, hey, Shregs, don't look at your phone. Snacks Harrison was just traded to the Lions. What did they get back? And what would you guess?
2nd round pick.
So 5th, because to me, if I said 5th round, I think you would think I was
bargain basement. It's the greatest deal ever for the Lions.
Okay. There we go.
Right?
I think so.
No, for real. They're in that position where sometimes someone's trying to sell you something on the street and you say, I'm not interested, and they keep lowering the price, and then they just say, make me an offer. Just make me an offer for anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of it.
You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get rid of this thing. And I feel like if you're a Giants fan right now, okay, you lost Snacks, you lost this guy, but the worst thing in fanhood is to be kind of in the middle. Either be really good or really bad. Right now, they're really bad, and they're about the next year and the next 2 years. I just wonder who are the untouchables. Like, they still have to build on something. Saquon's there, Odell's there, but is Landon an untouchable? He's a hell of a young safety. You can't get rid of everything. You know what I mean? You got to have some guys that are untouchable.
Within the last couple of days, Eli gets traded. And I was on Twitter, and they said, oh, looks like the Giants traded the wrong Eli. So obviously, the Giants fans are saying anybody can get it, anybody can go. I will say this. Everybody wins. The Giants, they win. They unload 2 guys that might not necessarily been plans for the future. But they're going to win in the future. Right now, they're struggling, as we all know. You look at Eli Apple going to the Saints. No better place to be. I mean, they're 5-1. Defense is monster.
Hey, he played college ball with Marshawn Lattimore and Von Bell.
That right there is a unique group of guys that's going to be together for a long time. I guarantee he'll play much better as a Saint. You look at Snacks and what they're trying to do with the Lions. That right there is a win for Snacks and a win for Detroit. Coming up, they got Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Mitchell Trubisky, and then Cam Newton. You don't think the Lions are saying, we need to get somebody to help on this defensive line to get after these quarterbacks?
Especially 2 weeks later, momentum. They've won 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, 2 weeks later, they got the Rams. So sitting back, Matt Patricia saying, all right, we got talent. We got guys that can play at every level. We add Snacks to the mix. Only 3-3 in the record, but they're 1-0 in the division. The Lions aren't out of it. They're one of the teams we're not talking about. But let's just think about this for a second. They add some depth to the defensive line, start getting after quarterbacks, which is something that every team wants. This could be one of the teams that make a run later in the season.
So does it change where you look at them in the landscape of the NFC North?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do with this player that they're getting. But when you look at who they're playing the next month, the next 8 weeks, like they're playing the top tier quarterbacks in this league.
You're a veteran player on a team, all right? You're the Giants. Say you're a player in the Giants, and you are one of the untouchables. Say you're Odell, and they just trade away 2 of your like. How do you look at the next 7, 8 weeks of the season? Are you still motivated to play, or are you like, all right, well, I'm out?
Well, to answer your question truthfully, no. Most guys on that roster are thinking about their vacation. They're already booking their flights. They're talking to their wives and girlfriends. Hey, where are we going to go in the offseason? Because we're not going to be in the postseason. But certain guys on that roster are saying, okay, it's bigger than the logo on my helmet. It's bigger than the jersey I wear. I'm playing for respect. I'm playing for pride. And I'm playing for the simple fact that they pay me a pretty penny to show up and show out. But that's not always the case. Guys are going to start reserving themselves. They're going to start saving themselves some energy. And you're going to see even more of a lack of effort, in my opinion. And I know the Giants can prove me wrong because that's how it goes. But if they're trading away certain players, there's 2 ways you look at it. You can look at it like Odell and say, they just paid me. I'm going to be around for a while. I can respect the fact they're trying to build the future. Guys are on the bubble. They're like, shh, hey, baby, don't unpack the boxes in the house. We could be next.
And then there's a huge elephant in the room in Eli Manning, and Pat Shurmur's the one that's going to have to deal with all of it. How does he navigate and manage that, Trigg?
It's really difficult. You've got to now get the locker room back in your corner. You've already stood up a few times. You've called out reporters. You've done this. This is going to be a very telling few months for Pat Shurmur, who, by the way, was a coach of a really bad Cleveland Browns team and got fired after 2 years because he didn't have that ability to get the guys going. Yeah. What's fascinating to me is yesterday on the show, Kay, you said Larry Fitzgerald should go to the Saints, and you said Le'Veon Bell should go to the Packers, and Nate said Calais Campbell to the Saints for Teddy Bridgewater, and I said Patrick Peterson to the Eagles. There is no trade right now, to me, and the way the NFL is playing right now, that is off limits. So many teams are still involved, and I think all of these deals are all possible. So it's fantasy football. It's the real world.
Oh, I love the action. And the next few days are going to be nuts. I think right now there's also a post-mortem to be done on the Giants. Like, we take the radio call sometimes, you know, on the show.
Donna.
Yeah, exactly. Or Benny from Hocus. And I would say, what the hell happened?
The boat happened. They're 4-20 since the boat.
Peter, I don't know if they got off that boat.
That team 4-20 since the boat.
I think it's that there were boots on the boat. Okay.
The Timberlands on the boat. This team went 11-5. The whole future's ahead of them. They go to Lambeau Field. The stupid boat thing. What'd you say?
4-20 their last 24 games.
The whole empire came crashing down from that one day, and my mind is blown if I'm a Giants fan right now. All these good players, all these weapons, we suck right now.
So let's say
what happened?
They keep Eli. Let's say he's not traded, and they keep stockpiling up some draft picks. Who, in your opinion, is better set up for success in the future out of New York, the Giants or the Jets?
That's a great question. It's all going to depend on what they do with these picks. But when you look at the trio of players, just this past weekend, Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, Saquon Barkley, 400 yards total offense. So offense rules the world to me. And I feel like they're set up better for the future. Set up better to win right now. Set up better to dominate the New York media space. The Jets, and I said that last year, Jets were the better team in New York, and I said that this year. Jets are the best team in New York, and they need to see that as such. And from now on, I think the Jets should look at it like that and say the Giants are catching up to us. Buffalo is catching up to us. Run your city. It's finally yours. Everything else is going crazy. There's a dumpster fire with the Giants. Buffalo Bills don't know where their quarterback is.
The Jets have the quarterback.
The Jets are good.
To Kay's point.
Like, you can have
They had 400 yards of offense, those 3 guys. They scored 6 points up until 5 minutes left. So all those yards didn't matter to me. Saquon didn't do nothing. Didn't do anything. We're talking about the New Yorkers here. Didn't do anything. But to Kay's point,
they have their quarterback.
What team do you want to watch more on Sunday right now? The Jets. They got Sam Darnold. They got a future. They've got something. They've at least got a defense in place. The Giants are a crumbling mess right now.
You know, it's funny. Not only the Jets, I think the Bills are set up better than the Giants. You know what I mean? I like Josh Allen. The Giants might be 3rd in their own state right now. So what are we looking at for the quarterback? A draft pick?
Justin Herbert?
I don't know. Some guy who could fall on his face? I have no idea. So I think it's Jets, Bills, and then Giants way down. It's a mountain that's crumbling.
You don't think the Giants are done? Ian's saying probably nothing today, but there's going to be fielding offers left and right until that trade deadline.
A couple more. I think there are going to be some real players in this. I think the Chiefs, the team you mentioned, are going to be players. I think the Eagles are going to be players. I think there's going to be a lot of fire sales both in Oakland and New York, and I wouldn't count out teams like Arizona who are going nowhere fast.
Great stuff, guys. I'm trying to chew on this as we have to go back home next week.
I'm still thinking about that boat.
To the Giants. What do you mean?
I'm still thinking of Odell on that boat. They never got off the boat.
That was very New York City talk radio that you brought up the boat.
Sorry, Trey Songz.
4-20. Trigger.
Is that
Trey
true?
Songz? It's your fault.
Trey Songz. Steal your season. Even have Trey Songz.
After this.
Now, Carr's older brother, Darren, defended Derek on Twitter, listing all the injuries he's played with. Derek responded, "Don't even waste your time with this big bro." So lots of drama that we're seeing playing out from coast to coast. This morning, we've already seen what the Giants have done, and also in Oakland, there seems to be a little bit of an upheaval and some feelings, strong ones, going back and forth.
It's understandable, and it's all being catalyzed by the fact that there's so many new GMs and coaches, as the boys pointed out. And it's interesting now, in this day and age, to sort of hear directly from the players. Like you're alluding to tweets. Landon Collins up early on the East Coast tweeting about the Snacks Harrison trade. So there's a lot to chew on over the next week. Keep it here on NFL Network for all of the moves as we approach that trade deadline. Thank you so much, Will Selva. We'll talk to you in a bit. Let's talk Cowboys now, because they were first, right? They got the jump start on the trade deadline on Tuesday, acquiring Amari Cooper. They got him from Oakland, so we know how it happened, right? But I want to know why it happened. And for that, let's throw it over to Jane Slater.
Kay, the biggest hang-up that I've seen from fans and privately some of the players is the cost of Amari Cooper. Is the 24-year-old Raiders wide receiver worth a first-round pick? Tuesday, Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett broke it down for us.
He's a young player. He's 24 years old. He has all the physical traits you want. He has all the intangible character qualities that you want. He has production in the league. So you say, okay, when you're drafting this position, this guy is like a draft pick. This guy was a top 5 draft pick. If you're in the draft next year, are you going to be able to get a player of this quality at this position?
And something else to keep in mind after talking to a number of people inside this building. When the Cowboys made their first-round selection this year, they really liked Alabama wide receiver Calvin Ridley, but instead chose linebacker Leighton Vander Esch. I don't think anyone around here regrets that, as Vander Esch has lived up to the hype. But you get Cooper, who's just 6 months older than Ridley was, but now has 4 years under his belt in the league, 2 1,000-yard seasons, and 2 Pro Bowls. As Jason Garrett explained to us on Tuesday, he is in some ways the less riskier pick. Kay, back to you.
I mean, Jane, when you put it like that, it sounds like they got a great deal, and they now almost veteran, 4 years under his belt, Amari Cooper, who we know has put up the numbers, who we know has the potential. So Dak, Zeke, Amari Cooper, guys, do the Dallas Cowboys now have the best big 3 in the NFC East?
No, not until I see it. It looks good on paper, Kay. Just like every team before the season, they're all paper champions. They're all ready to win a Super Bowl, and these guys are ready to put up great numbers, just like some of the great big 3s in Dallas history. But for me, it's what they have in New York. I'm looking at Odell Beckham, Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard. And I'll go back to it again. I said it earlier in the show. They put up 400 total yards, 150 apiece for the wide receivers. That's 300. Saquon put up just under 100 yards total. That's receiving and rushing. And that's not even a big game for Saquon. There's times when we've seen Saquon go clean off. I mean, video game numbers. So for me, I'm looking at the New York Giants. And I say all this in saying that Eli hasn't even been playing up to par.
You included Sterling over Eli.
He's not part of the big 3. Once they get a quarterback, and this is no disrespect.
Odell did throw that one pass, I guess.
Who's throwing him the ball?
Listen, I'm just saying, once they get a quarterback, and this is no shade to Eli, because I've been a fan of his for a long time. Once they get a young guy with a laser arm that can get these guys the ball in between small spaces and deep downfield, this will be one of the best big 3s of all time. They are that talented, I promise you.
Of all time?
Of all time.
Big
Odell
3,
is a premier
big 3
wide
in the
receiver.
NFC East. Who you got?
Big 3 in the NFC East. When I think big 3 in the NFC East, I think of Michael Irvin, I think of Emmitt Smith, and I think of Troy.
The triplets.
The triplets. As far as the NFC East goes, this is the big 3 right now. Dak, Zeke, and Amari. Amari was a number 3 overall pick and had a really good year 2 years ago. He's rejuvenated. Let's bring him in and see. If you look at Zeke Elliott, he's a number 4 overall pick. Let's see. Dak Prescott won NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's your big 3.
Couple thousand-yard seasons in Amari Cooper.
If you
You're
can
just
find
telling me their resume,
if you can find me a better one, let's see it.
All you're doing is telling me their resume. You haven't seen it yet.
It's there. It's there.
I'm going to double down with Nate. I look at this NBA Jam style. Okay. You know how they have the little power ratings and everything?
Yes.
Sometimes Detlef Schrempf's was low, but Sean Kemp's was so high that it would bring up the mean power rating. So I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to say Saquon, Odell, and Eli. Even though Eli's is low, I cannot tell you guys how much I believe in Saquon Barkley. I think he is the most talented running back in the league. The most talented. He's not the best yet, but you can have your Gurleys. I love those guys, Le'Veon. I think he is a 99 talent level with Odell. Eli's down here at 13 like Benoit Benjamin or something like that. We will bring them all the way up. I think their mean level, Adams, brings them to be the big 3.
Sometimes we find ourselves during a season, we've done the show now for 3 years, becoming the stand for a team that you didn't think you would be in the beginning of the season or in the preseason or training camp. And for me, that's the Redskins.
Okay.
So what we glorified, the Eagles, they're going to be fine. They're going to have a dynasty. And we're talking Cowboys like we always do. We neglect the Redskins. We just do. We didn't talk about how flashy they were, how good they were, any of that, Adrian Peterson. So to me, the big 3, it's not on offense. It's defense. It's the guys who held the guy that you think is big 3 to 33 yards in Zeke Elliott. It's Kerrigan. It's Payne. And it's Jonathan Allen. These 3 guys, these run stuffers that disrupt everything, are crushing it. To me, it might not be exciting, it might not be as sexy, but the Redskins' run-stopping defense is why they're number 1 in the East. So those are my big 3.
Okay.
It's fun to jump on a team when they're 4-2, Kay.
Yeah?
I'm saying, you don't but I'm saying, but we're still not talking about them.
We
so
are, I know.
Why are we still talking about a 1-6 Giants team way more than the Redskins?
It's the Alex Smith fact.
It's Alex Smith fact.
Who did it without...
is going to get the rock? I don't know.
It's Alex Smith.
He was their leading wide receiver. That's impressive in and of itself when you don't have Paul Richardson and Chris Thompson and anybody out there except for Capri Bibbs, the running back, as the lead receiver.
No one mentioned the Eagles, defending Super Bowl champion.
It's hard to put together the 3.
Carson.
Alshon's great. Carson's great.
Carson,
Who's the
Alshon,
third?
and Ertz.
Ertz is a good call for including tight ends, but then I want to include Jason Peters too. You know what I'm saying? The big 3 isn't pure.
Just with defense, we include anybody. I'm saying we got
Nate. Get in there.
tight ends,
well,
running
the
backs,
Redskins have the number 5 defense. Total
No, I
defense
respect
in the
it.
league.
They're
Number
first
3
place
run
by a
defense.
I think it's
receivers,
Roseman, Lurie, and Peterson. There's the big 3.
We don't always play by the rules here, but an update presented by On Location Experiences. And to give us an On Location update is intrepid reporter, colleague, friend, host over at NFL Network, host of NFL 360, Melissa Stark.
Hey! Bravo!
So, this was fabulous.
Where are you coming from?
Oh, I just came from the you guys are working. I'm out there sightseeing and enjoying myself going around
What'd you
London.
see?
Yeah, I went to the changing of the guard.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean, you have to get there very early. I actually ran because you want to get, I mean, there were thousands and thousands of people there. And it's very pomp and circumstance. And, you're at Buckingham Palace and all the horses come in and they come marching. Remember the outfits that Mooch and all those guys were in? Yeah, the big black top hats. And it was fantastic. I mean, it's something I wish you guys could do. But
Did you get a good view?
I did. Well, I had to, everybody had a selfie stick. And I don't know if you guys have selfie sticks. I don't have one.
You don't. You know, the New York Giants could stand to change a few of their guards, too. Right, we got to do something here. What are we doing? Come on now, let's go here.
Yeah.
See more emotion in those Buckingham Palace guards.
Oh, man.
We can go on and on. Melissa, you're going to be on the sideline Sunday. It's an NFL Network exclusive game. Jaguars versus the Eagles. I'll be on one. You'll be on the other.
Love it. Yep.
I've been doing this last couple of years, but Melissa, you've got experience doing this. You go back to Madden and Michaels and Monday Night
You're dating
Football.
me right now. Yeah.
Can you tell us about those days being on the sidelines for Monday Night Football and what that experience was like?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was in my mid-20s. I mean, I was pretty darn young when I was doing that. And it was awesome. I mean, the games at night, and at that time, it was the highest rated show on television.
Yeah.
I mean, Monday Night Football was. And it was, to work with John Madden and to ride his bus. I mean, it's all true.
Cruiser?
Yes. Yep. It's
Oh, look
true.
at Al.
Oh
I
my
can't even
gosh.
deal with this
Where'd you guys
photo.
dig that one?
a good shot.
I'm so happy we we did.
That's so funny. So, I mean, yeah, we would ride his bus around. I mean, because, you know,
You were on
he
the
is
cruiser?
claustrophobic. Always on the cruiser to all the production meetings.
Man.
And sometimes we just went, you know, out to dinner on it. and
Same
things like
bus
that.
driver every time?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, he's been with him forever. There's 2 different bus drivers. Yes.
That's
You're
iconic.
getting back into it.
Really cool.
What's changed the most?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I mean, you have to tell me what's changed the most. I'm going to be leaning on you, my guru over there. But I mean, I think the biggest, I called Fred Godelli, who was our producer on Monday Night Football, and now he does Sunday Night Football, and he was sort of just the guy who knows it all. And I mean, he was saying the biggest change is kind of the blue tent, you know? I mean, that the guys go in there for injuries and things like that. But other than that, I mean, it just is, it's awesome to be down there, you know, in the middle of it. I can't wait to go back.
You excited to be back?
I'm so excited. I need a bodyguard for my head.
Oh,
So,
stop.
Like a metal umbrella or something.
okay, I know.
Carry that around.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
Huge matchup this weekend at Wembley. Jags, Eagles, we've been talking about it all week, and you interviewed Jeffrey Lurie. We saw that and aired it on the show, and you've got something else for us today, right? You sat down with Jags owner Shad Khan. Let's take a little look at that.
Hell, but to look at my own mustache, because I just feel inadequate. It's so strong. It's incredible.
You need to grow it out?
I need to grow it out. But all jokes aside, he puts such a premium on the exposure overseas.
Yes.
Specifically here in London.
Yes.
Talking to him, being out here multiple times, what is it about the fans here that makes it so appealing to the Jaguars?
Well, you heard him say how much he loves the city, and Kay, I know you're moving here, right? So, I mean, Kay loves it as well. But he's such an international guy, right? He's an American. He's a Pakistani businessman. He had flown in for that interview, which was in downtown New York, the owners' meetings, near your new studio, right? Yeah, we were checking that out. He had flown in from Spain just for that interview. The Jaguars had played in Dallas the night before. He hadn't even been there. So he's kind of all over the world. He actually pointed out, you guys know how he made his money, right?
Auto parts.
He's an engineer, car bumpers, right? And he's like, and I said, you know, do you mind the travel? Because you just flew in. He goes, I used to drive around the Midwest selling bumpers, you know, in my car.
Shad's in like Paducah, Kentucky,
Right. I mean,
dishing
he said,
out bumpers.
do you know, and now that you can get on a plane from here to here in 6 hours or 8 hours, you know, he realizes how small, you know, kind of the world is. And he also loves the fact, he told me that you know, fans will come and talk to him at the game in all different languages, right? He only speaks 3 languages. But he said only, right? But he said he doesn't necessarily understand what they're all saying, but just the international feel of it is so appealing. And he's a businessman. I mean, he gets it. It's great for the NFL.
It was a huge deal when he got the team because he was this international man, and we're going to give him an American football team, a guy whose story is truly the American dream. So to me, that's also a beautiful part about this. You know, Shad Khan, he also owns the Fulham Football Club, and his son Tony is basically the GM of a team that was just elevated to the Premier League. How much of a premium does he put on Fulham as well as the Jaguars?
Well, you know, so the big thing is the whole Wembley situation, right? That he was just trying to buy Wembley and then withdrew. And that was like a minor setback because when I was sitting with him there, he's such a nice person. He did not want it to be perceived as a hostile takeover. And now we know that the NFL and the Jaguars, like the NFL since 2007, the Jaguars since 2013 have had a great relationship with FA that owns Wembley, but he needs the full support. And he wasn't getting it at the time, but it's not the last we've heard of it. I mean, they're definitely gonna come back to that. Yeah.
That's cool. Driving around selling auto parts.
You're still on that?
It's like Tommy Boy. I mean, that's really cool. It's a really cool
Shoddy
story.
Boy.
It's amazing. Let's talk about this game, though. Let's talk about we're all entertained by this idea that there's Blake Bortles, who plays down in Florida,
right,
and then there's Bloke Bortles, who comes here in London, and he's Joe Montana. It's unbelievable. The best player in NFL London history. So can we expect a bounce-back game from Blake or Bloke?
Right, in front of these Jaguar hometown fans. Right. Yes. No, I mean, I think, you know, I mean, after what happened last week, you know he's on a short leash, right? I'd play cautiously, wouldn't you? I mean, so I don't know. Against this Eagles defense, they're not going to do what they did last week, right? Giving up that 17-0 lead in the fourth quarter. But I also think, you know, if you talk to the Jaguars this week, they're cutting down on individual drills. They're working on taking care of the football and taking the football away. So I mean, they're going back to the basics. But the Jaguars, I mean, we know our James Palmer was there this week. There was lots of issues, and the reporters were kicked out of the locker room, right? I mean, there's just a lot going on. I'm sure they hope, right, to have a little bit of that London magic that they've been having, but I think it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I hope they take care of the balls pre-game and during the game.
Thank you.
Drilled on the sideline as you were last week at Wembley. But we will see you, Melissa Stark, back on the sidelines. We cannot wait to see it. Schrager will be joining her. We're going to have a great time, guys, every day. Until then, it's the Jaguars and this guy and those guys fighting it out. These two teams pretty much were this close to meeting each other in the Super Bowl a year ago. It's Eagles-Jags live from London on Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And guess what? You can only see it on
The oldest active player in the league and is just 5 points shy of passing Morten Andersen as the NFL's all-time leading points scorer. So nervously confident. That's one way to go through life there, Schrags, and especially if you're playing
That's a good
fantasy
term.
face-off. Love that.
Nice. Well done. That's a good hashtag, nervously confident. Let's get back to the studio over here in London.
All right.
So as we approach the start of Week 8, we asked you guys at home, both stateside and here in the UK, to tweet us your toughest fantasy football lineup question segment we do every Wednesday. We pick the best of them, and we go to our resident fantasy expert,
Hello!
Ms. Kay Adams.
Hello!
In this week's edition of Fantasy Duel. Face off. I like it.
Yes.
First up, we've got a tweet from Bradley who asks, Aaron Rodgers at the Rams or Kirk Cousins against the Saints at home in Minnesota. Kay, what do you got?
I like them both, but I sneakily am scared of the Saints defense. They're getting better every week, and they've allowed not a lot of touchdowns, just 3 scores to quarterbacks over the last 3 weeks, which is sort of insane. I look at the matchup against the Rams, and if you look at the numbers and the trends and where they are ranked in total defense against quarterbacks, they're a tough matchup. But then I looked at it a little bit deeper. And if you take the 3 top 15 quarterbacks that they face, they've actually had a lot of success. You're not going to bench Aaron Rodgers really ever in any situation. But if I look at guys like Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, and Kirk Cousins, they have put up great numbers against this defense. So I think you have to play Aaron. And don't be afraid to play a quarterback against the Rams. They put up great numbers, but they're a little bit skewed.
Okay. Aaron Rodgers played in the Coliseum once in college back at Cal.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Lost to USC, but he was fantastic.
Yeah.
They could barely stop him. Great USC team, had nothing for him.
He's also thrown for over 430 yards a game over the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, you're going to play him. You're going to go ahead and play him.
All right, let's get to James. We love James here in London, who says, I need a running back this week. Kay Adams, should I go Lamar Miller or Marlon Mack?
Ooh.
This is kind of a tough one. I like Lamar Miller. He had a 100-yard game, and I like to see that. But this is the first time he's had a situation where he went over 75 yards since week 1 of the season. So there's an up and down sort of, I don't know what I'm getting, volume-wise factor with Lamar Miller, whereas Marlon Mack's averaging wild numbers. He's 126 yards, a touchdown over the last 2 weeks. So Marlon Mack getting more of a role, and I'd weirdly like to play him up against Oakland, who are the 8th most generous to running backs.
I love it. Play.
I like that's a good.
All right.
You've got bye weeks this week. Go if Marlon Mack is somehow available in your league. Go
People
scoop
are
him up.
watching the Colts because they're not like this brand name team, but Marlon Mack last week was awesome.
Yeah, the
All over the place
the
against
Raiders
the
this year
Bills.
not doing very well with Max. So
That's
I
true.
think that you probably want to
But
play
Max,
him.
I mean, it's not
job,
126
Thank you.
yards total. He's averaging 126 yards a game over the last 2 weeks in a touchdown. Like, scoop him up.
All right, I got another showdown between a couple of Bears running backs in-house we have. Let's go Kilo.
Kilo hey, is that your barber?
Yeah, that might be.
Is that your barber?
Shout out to Kilo. Tariq Cohen or Jordan Howard?
Civil War? Okay.
Well, this one I feel like is meant to make me sad because I have Jordan Howard as my rushing leader this year. That doesn't seem to be happening. Tariq Cohen obviously turning it up. I want to say Jordan because the volume is still there, right? And you want volume, but I want the explosion and the fun experience of Tariq Cohen. We hate pitting these two Bears against each other, but if you look at what he's done recently over the last 3 games, he's averaging also 126 a game. He's scored 3 touchdowns in 3 weeks. They're getting him the ball, and when he gets it in his hands, he's gonna score, and we know that.
question.
So I love him up against the New York Jets. Both have okay matchups, but if I'm picking one or the other, give me the Kyle Brandt upside experience.
I love it. Always go big, right? It's fantasy. Have fun.
Pick Tariq Cohen over Jordan Howard. It makes me sad, but you win your fantasy league, so that's great. I have one for you guys. You want to play?
got?
Yeah, let's do
Fantasy
it.
face-off. You can choose only one British spy to conduct a top secret mission.
Okay.
Face-off. Austin Powers, James Bond.
Oh, look at those pictures. That's awesome.
That's
great.
Connery versus Myers?
Oh, we had to go Connery.
Oh, that's
what are you doing?
fantastic.
You think I'm going to slap Daniel Craig in there?
Nah, I'll give you the old school.
Come
Exactly
on.
right.
What do you got?
You know, I'm going to go Powers. Bond is very easily distracted. Very. There's a classic SNL sketch with Chris Parnell and Garth Brooks where Bond goes in to get a physical, and the doctor's like, hey, Special Agent Bond, you have contracted many, many diseases. I think I would go with Powers on that. Keep your eye on the game.
One top secret mission, you're going
That's it,
Powers.
Powers.
What do you guys got?
I'm going Powers. Very unconventional methods that he uses.
Yes.
And I'm with that.
You're with that.
I'm with that.
You're with it.
Yeah.
Oh, behave! Do I like you? Never mind. Elizabeth Hurley's in on, man.
You couldn't help it.
Powers.
This is Westminster Live, everyone, overlooking River Thames, the London Eyes over there, Parliament, of course.
Big Ben.
Big Ben wearing a boot.
That's right, the walking boot, or the ticking boot.
Under
It's got some
construction.
scaffolding, but it's like an offensive line for Big Ben.
Yeah, it's as we say, Big Ben always has a clock in his head, right? Same as this one.
True.
That's the one.
Well done. Well played.
Looking for that bell, Nate.
Nate Burleson. Somehow we got really fancy whiteboards. We'll get to all of that,
Yes,
of course. Peter Schrager and Kyle Brandt. But it is time for the lead block. Because you heard me say New York's a trade-in. That is our home, of course, New York City. And we bring in Ian Rappaport, the rap sheet, because we saw the Giants trade Eli Apple just yesterday to the Saints. What else is going on with Big Blue and Snacks?
More trades for the New York Giants. A fire sale right now happening for Big Blue. First, Eli Apple to the Saints yesterday. This morning, star defensive tackle Damon Snacks Harrison, sources say, is being traded to the Detroit Lions for general manager Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia in exchange for a 5th-round pick, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but considering the fact that Snacks is almost 30 and he does have a hefty salary, this one would, of course, make sense for the Giants, why they were not able to get as much for Snacks as they did for Eli Apple. And so let's look at both sides. First of all, for the Giants, this sheds a big salary and makes it clear they are in rebuilding mode. It would not be surprised if they look to ship off maybe some of their other high-priced veterans. Janoris Jenkins, of course, potentially could be the next one to focus on, although no trades happening today. And then for the Lions, they really have a very little risk here, just a 5th-round pick for a sure starter, one of the best run stuffers in the NFL, cleans up a weakness for them and maybe helps them push forward toward the playoffs, which really it seems like that's kind of the direction they're going now.
Ian Rappaport, I hope you are in form and ready to go, because I feel like this is not the end of that. We've been talking about it all morning, trades from the Giants and other teams that are looking to buy on that market, who are looking to contend. And so it'll all be shaken out right here on NFL Network with you front and center, my friend. Sir Ian, we'll talk to you in a little bit. Of course, in this era of social media, we've got people tweeting about this right away. Landon Collins, a stud on their defense, a guy that the team could likely build around, or could they? We'll see. Tweeting hashtag bro. Later tweeting, bro, go to sleep. And that's, of course, to Devin Kennard, who said, welcome to the team. Welcome to the squad. Come on over. And he said, go back to bed. Thoughts here at the old breakfast table. And by old, I mean new, but it's in London, so we call it old.
Okay. Fire sale. And last week, John Mara was at the owners' meetings, and John Mara said, it's not going to be a quick fix. That was your red flag. That means that it's time to start getting things done. This wasn't going to happen this year, which I think a lot of Giants fans thought was the case when they took a running back 2nd overall in April.
I believe the ultimate question right now, if you're a Giants fan, watching everything, watching the season, watching these trades, watching what's going to happen, you're asking yourself, is it over? Is it over? Is the season over? We're playing terrible. The trade's over. What's going next? I would say this. Trades might not be over. There still could be some more movement.
That's what I'm saying.
But to the fans, the season is over. And with that said, let me talk to the players. You're only as good as your last game, just like when you're playing Madden. I don't want you to sit there and start counting the days before you get to take your vacation. Don't look towards the future, because this new coaching staff, they're willing to get rid of everybody. So make sure that you give the ultimate effort. I know in seasons like this, you're saying, it's a wrap. I don't care anymore. Trust me, man. Don't put garbage on tape, because if you put garbage on tape, you'll be thrown out just like the garbage you may be.
I need more. I want more. Trading snacks, it's like at the lunch table. You're trading snacks. Give me the big ones, the gushers, the sandwich. Peter keeps promising us all these big things. I want the big names, big contracts, everything.
I don't know who it is yet, but it will happen in the next couple of days.
Hey, my man.
And trading that chocolate milk.
No, that's off the
We love hearing that from Peter Schrager. We love all of that, but we are also loving the fact that there's football a day away. Thursday night action, everyone. It's the Dolphins and the Texans. Houston quarterback Deshaun Watson suffered a chest injury last week in Jacksonville. Guys, he took a nearly 13-hour bus ride back to Houston instead of joining his teammates on the plane. The team was concerned about air pressure and how that would affect him in the injury, and it's a risk that they weren't willing to take on a short week. But how will that in and of itself, and how will all these other factors affect them, the Texans, in their preparation for tomorrow night? Let's send it over to Omar Ruiz and MJ Acosta.
Good morning, Kay. Deshaun Watson has been lauded as an inspiration by his teammates for fighting through a cracked rib and injured lungs, doing what it takes to stay on the field, including taking that long bus ride to Jacksonville. Watson, one of the many inspirational stories coming out of the Texans locker room, including DB Andre Howell, who played for the first time on Sunday after beating cancer just days after his dad died. J.J. Watt telling me that when you overcome adversity, you realize that brighter days are ahead. It's something this team has utilized in overcoming their 0-3 start. For more now from Miami, let's send it over to MJ Acosta, who's with the Dolphins.
Thanks, Omar. The Dolphins are trying to turn a short injury-riddled week into a W against the Texans. Adam Gase says it will take all week to determine and get a clearer picture on Ryan Tannehill's injury. Meantime, Brock Osweiler will be without two key offensive weapons. Kenny Stills and Albert Wilson did not travel with the team. The Brockmeister says he's aware people are discounting this Dolphins team, even though they're 4-3. He says they want to shut down the haters on Thursday Night Football with a victory. Kay, back to you.
Thanks so much. One of the best wide receivers in the National Football League, if not the best, DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson, getting a little bit more healthy. They're taking the necessary precautions for them to make, I don't know, make some waves out there, winning 4 straight.
First place team. Yeah. This is a legitimate contender right now if you're a first place team in your division.
We'll be talking more about it, of course, leading into Thursday night action, which you can see right here on NFL Network. But it's the Wednesday, and even here in London, it is still time for Whiteboard Wednesday. It's presented by LGV40, so let's go ahead and get into it, gentlemen.
Right.
You guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's say breaking news this morning, obviously. Let's start there. They traded Damon Snacks Harrison to Detroit. They're getting a 5th rounder in return there with the Giants. So I ask you, fine gentlemen, your favorite trade of all time.
Favorite trade or favorite nickname?
I like because Snacks has got nicknames and trades.
Oh, let's do nicknames. We talked on the break. I messed that up. Sorry. Your favorite nickname of all time.
Okay. All right.
My favorite trade is shoe cobbling. All right, nickname. Let's see. All right.
So your favorite nickname. Snacks is pretty legit.
Snacks is great. I'm going to go here.
Are you guys staying football or no?
I'm going to go with a player's father, the late, great Craig Ironhead Hayward. I don't know if there was ever a better name to describe a running style. Ironhead used to just lower his helmet and just go into the line of scrimmage and knock guys on their butts. He had a very famous commercial where he was with a loofah in the shower. Ironhead Hayward.
I've never seen that.
Okay, we got YouTube. It's great.
One of my favorite players of all time, the Saints legend. His son right now is having an incredible career, obviously with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Craig Ironhead Hayward, my favorite nickname of all time.
All right, I'll go next. I'll keep this simple. I was going to go with another giant. I've always loved Stephen Baker, the touchdown maker. But I will go with someone on the D-line as well as Snacks Harrison. Deacon Jones. You might not know this. Deacon Jones' name is David. His name is David Jones. He was asked once, why do you go by Deacon Jones? He said, quote, because no one is afraid of David Jones. One of the most terrifying players ever. Wow. Deacon was a nickname. David Jones, love you, my man.
All right, I'm going to go baseball. Just imagine a young kid in Seattle, teenage boy. You want to embrace the nickname of some of your favorite players. Go on. One of the best pitchers to ever grace Mariners uniform. The big unit.
That's it, Nate.
Randy Johnson. I was, 13-year-old boy saying I want that to be my nickname.
I
played baseball when I was younger.
You know, I was in a deodorant commercial with the big unit. I'm not kidding.
Is that true?
Yes. I'm
really?
Not kidding. Me, the big unit, and Jim Brewer. Me. It's on YouTube. Search Randy Johnson, Kyle Brand on YouTube. There's a whole commercial.
Jim Brewer? Like
Jim Brewer, the comedian, me, and Randy Johnson.
I can't wait to see this in a commercial
I'm not kidding.
Go boys!
2003.
you watch that. I want to see the Ironhead commercial. Is that what
All right. All commercials.
We've got homework during our commercials on the show. All right. The Jaguars and the Eagles, they're both coming off losses in Week 7. Both teams looking to bounce back at Wembley on Sunday. So the best turnaround of all time is what? Both these teams can do it. Of course, Blake Bortles getting the nod once again. We know how he plays in Jacksonville, and the Eagles have too much talent to keep performing the way they are.
I'm looking at a career turnaround. We talk about brand management, #brand, you know, and like Brittany came back and was like, Alex Rodriguez is somehow this now
100%.
sympathetic, lovable, like cuddly guy.
Don't tell Jimmy Traina, Peter.
Like, the fact that A-Rod now is like America's darling, I don't know. It's
great PR job.
Great PR job, great brand management on this one, but Alex Rodriguez now suddenly lovable. A-Rod is an amazing thing based on what he was as a player in the fans' view.
All right, I'll say this. So football players nowadays with social media and the coverage, oftentimes what happens to them off the field, any type of meltdown, we see it. Just imagine how many happen behind closed doors and that people don't see. I say that because there's a ton of meltdowns that players have and people don't see and they never recover from. I never in my life cracked a joke about Britney Spears, but the fact that she had a meltdown in front of the world and was able to bounce back, there's so many people that crack jokes like, oh, it's over. She can't handle it. And now, still one of the most beloved
Brit,
in the world.
She's doing another residency in Vegas, I just saw.
Really?
Yeah.
Straight up, Britney Spears, I love it because at one point everybody was pointing their finger and laughing, and she is one of those stories. Listen, you can bounce back from anything if she can.
I'm going to pay homage to our surroundings here in England, and I'm going to go Dickensian with it. How about the character arc on this gentleman right here? Here's a comeback. His name was known as a mean old SOB. At the end of it, he's buying a goose for the family and the Crutchets, and everyone gets money. Look at him. That is pre-Scrooge, a complete turnaround in his character, in the town, in really all of England, if you ask me. Ebenezer Scrooge, a massive 180. Shout out to Tiny Tim. The family called him Tiny Tim. That's bullying. No wonder the poor kid had a complex.
So, great stuff, guys. Wipe those boards all week long. I've been hearing you guys ask English people to say things in American accents, and you guys are saying things in British accents. So I decided I would like to ask you guys to say something finally in a British accent. And I've chosen famous, sort of hackneyed, standard NFL quotes. Your favorite NFL quote of all time in your best British accent.
I'm going to jump out of the box with this one. I mean, I'm going to the late Dennis Green after a Monday night football
Gotta
loss.
do it.
And let's get the camera. Let's do it. The Bears are who we thought they were. That's why we took the damn pitch. Now, hits microphone. If you want to crown them, crown their arse. But they are who they thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Well done.
It's a Devin Hester.
Well done.
Devin Hester.
Nate's got, or Peter's got the best accent.
All right. I think it's the best because it's the worst, which I think makes it the best.
Yeah, which makes it the best.
It's the
I'll jump right in. And mine is very simple. It's no more than 3 words. And I'm just going to read it in the translation, okay? And you guys just tell me what I'm saying and where it came from.
Go on.
Okay.
Proper currency, bruv.
Straight cash, homie.
How you gonna pay for that, Randy? Proper currency, bruv. Straight cash, homie. Yeah, you see how that ties in? Proper currency, bruv. Yeah.
Ain't nothing but 10,000 pounds. What's 10,000 pounds to me?
Good.
If we're doing those, we gotta hit the classics, right? So there's one classic that's not being represented. Let's just roll it right here, and I'll try to do it with this gentleman who we've all seen so many times. Give it to me. Here we go. Playoffs? Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we win a game. Playoffs. Jim Mora, the best. And he also, Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. Those are the classics. That's it. Those are our Shakespeare, right? Those are ours.
I'm really glad I asked you guys that one. You guys can tweet the show at #GMP. Who has the best accent out of these two guys? Let us know. Finally, your favorite British character, actor, whatever, sports or otherwise.
Okay.
I'm going to go last
So
on this
actor,
one.
pop
You're gonna go
star,
last?
I've got a prop, so I'm going to go last.
Okay, you're going to, you guys can play at home at #GMP. Your favorite
I'll
British
jump right
character.
I would go Christopher Robin, but why not go with the character they created, Winnie the Pooh. Now listen, I'm a 37-year-old man, but there's nothing like watching Winnie the Pooh. If you're having a bad day, just go in and watch Pooh. All he wants is some honey. That's it, man.
Some honey.
Hey, he's out there with a red shirt, no pants, no undergarments.
All he wants is that sugar.
Oh, bother.
He's a little bit. He's a little bit
ridiculous.
Pooh might need to go to rehab, but it's all good. Hey, listen, we all wanted a little bit of honey.
Oh, my God.
You know, because Eeyore's on the depressants, and Tigger's on the uppers, and then Pooh's just right in the middle with it. Who doesn't want
He's got no pants on, right?
yeah, and speaking of stimulants and the things you ingest, I always loved this guy. Because Friar Tuck would hang with a bunch of misfits and outlaws, and he was representing a man of the cloth, but he would just get hammered on beer. He was coming around with barrels and barrels of ale, and he would take confession and then put back some old IPAs or something. This is really, to me, what England is about. Good times, good faith, and great beer. Friar Tuck.
I'm not going to use the whiteboard. I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going with a mask.
Oh, my God.
No words necessary, Peter.
Put it on, man.
God,
No.
that's so
Don't you
scary.
have to it. Don't you have to it.
Get in there, Peter.
Driving a car.
Hey, give me the fingers, Trace. Give me the fingers. There we go. Give me.
That's it.
That's Peter Jackson in bean face.
So Traeger gets in the car this morning.
I'm triggered.
He's like, hey guys, I got some plums. I got some fruit for us this morning. And he was like, hey, I stopped at a little gift shop. I got something for the show. I'm not going to tell you.
Take that off.
Listen, he had a run on.
Mortifying means embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed.
He was like a kid that couldn't hide a secret. He's like, you know, I got something for the show. I can't tell you. I got a mask.
Mr. Bean, what do you think of the Philadelphia Eagles this
Look,
week?
Snacks Harrison did a lot of... No, Mr. Bean doesn't talk.
Right. He just gesticulates.
Did you find
Wraps up presents for Hans Gruber.
Gift shop?
There's actually a street that looks exactly like Canal Street in New York with just knickknacks and the souvenir stuff you would never buy. I was like I'm in. I bought everything again.
We have pictures?
Peter's bankrolling this whole town.
Underappreciated spy, right there, Mr. Bean.
Mr. Khan, Mr. Lurie, Mr. Bean.
That's what we call a black bean.
Hey, there you go.
This lovely segment
Was that a vegan dip? Was that a
by
vegan
LG
joke?
V40 Think Q. Thank you guys for watching and hanging out.
Network.
Welcome back to Good Morning Football London Style. We are here, of course, in London in advance of the Jaguars-Eagles game that will take place on Sunday at Wembley Stadium. So who better to join us than a Jaguars all-time leading rusher? This man rusher, let me get this right, 11,000 yards.
What?
66 rushing touchdowns. Is the sole owner of the longest run in the NFL postseason history. Please welcome to the breakfast table in London, Fred Taylor. Hey! What's up, Fred?
I'm good, man. How's it going?
Of course, man. Appreciate you joining us.
I appreciate that introduction, man. You can do it again? I mean,
I'll record it so you use your ringtone.
All right, let's do it.
Now, Kay was asking how many times have you been over here. What has been one of the memories that stood out over all your trips here to London?
I mean, I guess the last 3-4 years, just the Jaguars getting a win. Yeah, I mean, it seems like this is really their home field because they're winning here. But more importantly, seriously, just the way the fans are embracing this game.
Yeah.
You know, just every year I come back, they make us feel like we're at home. So that part of it's been great. You know, getting around on the tube. I'm from Florida, so everything's flat.
Right.
We don't have an underground rail system.
Got it.
So just hopping on and off the tube, getting lost, you know, asking strangers for questions, just being a tourist.
Right.
So that's always good and fun for me.
You just got to fan out a little bit. Like, it's perfect right now. You are royalty, right, at the running back position. I mean that. I mean,
Thank you.
I played the running back position at a very humble level, but guys like you, of your era and work done, and Jerome Bettis and Mike Allstott, I mean, you guys were the guys I looked up to. You're fantastic players. So it's so cool that you're here, man. And I know you've always been very modest, but we're all very impressed with you, man. So thank you for being here.
I mean, this is the only way I can be. I don't know any other way to be.
And you played the same way.
But that's true. I think I was a little bit meaner on the field. But it's fun. I do appreciate those words.
You did just sort of slip in here. We're all loud in the break, and you came in back and said, Fred Taylor's just sitting here.
That's how it's games with you, baby.
I know, I love
Before the
that.
game was over, we were like, Fred Taylor just went for 250 yards?
Right. So let's talk Jags, though, Fred. You're obviously one of the faces of the franchise. A quarter from the Super Bowl last year. Obviously, the season started a little disappointed. And all the Jaguars questions always seem to come back to Blake Bortles. So how do you come out, very pivotal week, should they trust Blake Bortles? Do they stay with him? How do you feel about it?
I mean, they made a statement this offseason when they signed Blake. They say, this is our guy. You know, everybody's talking trade, this and that. But Blake had a pretty good season last year, so I understand the reasons for signing him to that extension. And Blake's strengths are when, obviously, most quarterbacks, when he's not turning the ball over. And for this team, their strength is defense, number one, and protecting the football, which was the formula for their success last year. So I think if they can get back to that, they'll be fine. You know, they'll start getting back on track, winning some games, and going into this halfway point. If they can get a victory here in London, they'll be just fine. So, but it starts with protecting the football from the quarterback position.
Taking care of it.
And then getting back to what they were doing last year, and that's getting after the opposing quarterback.
Right, it's all about that defense, right? That's what the whole theme of them was last year. They had so much sauce, and this year not as much. Even in the locker room, you know, they came out really confident in the offseason. Jalen Ramsey, after a Week 6 loss, had this to say.
Jalen, what challenge did Cole Beasley pose today?
Defense usually plays with a lot of swagger and confidence. What needs to happen to kind of get you guys mojo back?
Hey, you got what it takes in this room to kind of regroup and get back on track. We'll see.
Is this still the best defense in the NFL, Jalen? Is this still the best defense in the NFL?
We ain't playing like it.
What's your reaction to a response like that? His demeanor, it clearly represents what's going on in that locker room. And what advice would you give to Jalen?
Well, you know, Jalen's a very confident and outspoken, outgoing person. He believes in his abilities. He believes in the guys that he's with. You know, that's their brotherhood. And, you know, I understand that he's frustrated. You know, he believes that they can do more, much like a lot of the guys on the defense. I think the advice I would give them is just to just go out there and play. You know, they have a lot of pressure to live up to because of some of the comments they made in the offseason. So they have to go out there and back it up. And every single week, you know, people are going to be looking in. Can this Jaguars team handle the pressure that they presented among themselves? So, but for Jalen, just keep staying confident, man. That's his swag. That's the way he plays the game. That's the way he approaches it. Much like Muhammad Ali, I'm not putting him in the same category, but just the confidence. You have to have a certain confidence in your game and your ability. Yeah, and Jalen's been playing well. He hasn't, you know, given up a whole lot. You know, some guys are going to win matchups, and you're going to win matchups. But just keep bringing it every week. And regardless of what's going on out there, they're not playing to their ability and their level. You got to keep going, man.
Yeah,
you know,
no question.
You can't back down now.
I go back to watching this guy at Florida, just gashing the SEC. But when you first came into the league, you were this really fun running back on a really fun team coached by Tom Coughlin. Here we are, 25 years later.
Man, that's a long time.
Has Tom Coughlin changed? Is it the same guy who was such a drill sergeant in Jacksonville those early days in the hot heat, taking you guys up to Wisconsin for training camp? Or is he now a warmer, softer Coughlin, kind of overlooking from afar? What's his involvement with the team today, and how have you seen the man change since he's won 2 Super Bowl rings?
I mean, he has changed. You know, he became the coach that allowed his players to police the locker room. You know, he started putting more trust in those guys, especially when he went up to New York. Not so much in Jacksonville, but you know, he was a fresh coach, man. He felt this is what I got to do to get these guys' attention, and a lot of grown men didn't necessarily like that. But he started doing it the other way, and he saw some success in it, and that's what he became. He's still the disciplinarian, even in the front office today. He's black and white. You know, it's this way, it's that way. Anything in between isn't going to work. And that's where I think the Jaguars, some of their success has come from. You know, the guys understand what's expected of them. But he's a bit softer in a subtle way. But again, inside and underneath that, he still demands what he demands, and he believes in excellence. And,
do you kind of back away when you see him now, or you still have that?
No, I don't have to. You know, we have a great relationship. At one point early on, it didn't necessarily seem that way. But after I went to New England, I saw him in a preseason game. I said, Coach, I appreciate you. I love you, and I understand now what you were trying to get out of us.
That.
So, and that's what it's about, man.
Sure, man.
Yeah.
Every August, we do this Hall of Fame stuff, and we talk about who's in, who's out. There's a big contingency of Jaguars fans who bring up your name. You've had an incredible career. You've had more 100-yard rushing games than 49 than any other player in Jaguars history.
Talk about it, bro.
You have more than LaDainian Tomlinson over the course of your career, and you have the same number of 1,000 rushing yard seasons as Eric Dickerson. This is a very big platform of NFL fans. Fred Taylor, make your case for the Hall of Fame.
I mean, I think I deserve to get in. I'm not a voter, obviously, but I think when they really dig into or dive into, you know, the defenses that I faced. The Ravens twice a year. Early when we had the AFC Central, the Titans twice a year, the Steelers twice a year. You know, opposed to some of the other guys, I don't know if they played those type of defenses in their divisions. My numbers speak for themselves. I played in a very quiet market at the time. So I did get a lot of that Pro Bowl love in the voting back then. But I'm not going to beg. I'm going to let the voters look at the numbers. You know, they'll sort everything out and look at what I did versus who I did it against. I think when you look at players that are already in the Hall of Fame, the defenders, the Derrick Brooks and the Warren Sapps, the Ray Lewises, those guys, that, you know, they'll say, look, this was a guy we think deserved to be in there. Actually, Ray just said it a couple months back during his induction, he and Randy Moss.
No question.
You know, we'll see what happens. Hopefully I can get some love and figure it out then. I'm not asking to go in next year or next year after that, but at some point.
I hear that. There's never been a Jaguars Hall of Famer. Tony Baselli and Fred Taylor are waiting for that call.
Yes,
Listen,
we are.
Fred Taylor should be the first. Coming in at the tail end of your career, I will say this. There's a ton of guys that talk themselves into the spotlight, and there's other guys that earned it yard by yard the hard way. And I know you don't want to say it, and you didn't say it when you played, but for what it's worth, for a long time, you carried the ball, and you carried that damn organization, and you were one of the pillars at the running back position. Like Kyle said, being a running back, I know you know how special this man is. So I'll keep echoing it. I love your humble approach, the modesty, but you were a living legend when you played, and you still are. and you deserve that jacket, man.
I appreciate you, Nate. Always.
Amazing.
Respect.
One of the greatest natural runners to ever live, Fred Taylor.
No Jag ever?
Never been a Hall of Famer from the Jaguars. You've had Kevin Green, who maybe had, like, there's guys who've been bounced around, but never a pure Jaguar.
Yeah, sure.
Non-football question.
And go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
please go.
Can I ask you this? Now, you mentioned the way you approached it. We came in before social media, and you talked about Jalen Ramsey and being the Muhammad Ali. We were coming off a couple weeks ago where Odell was getting flack for what he said about his own quarterback and his offense. What's your advice to this younger generation? Because you weren't a guy to hold your tongue when you were asked certain things, but you weren't a guy that searched for the spotlight and wanted the microphone in your face either. How do you feel about this new generation, and what is your advice to these young guys that sometimes want to talk before they even actually go out there and do something?
I think, one, they hire a PR person, expert PR person that's, that's great in that space. Look, you can't say this, you can't say that. You do things in moderation. Here's when to hit, here's when not to hit. So strategically, you can benefit from social media.
Okay.
Whether it be fan engagement, business stuff, whatever it may be. But everything has to be done in moderation, and it has to be well calculated.
Yeah.
You just can't, in your frustrations, run to Twitter and just type some stuff up and send it out, because once it's out, it's out.
Yeah.
So you have to, take that deep breath, maybe even develop a routine and say, 10 minutes after I'm done, let me gather all my thoughts, text my PR person, and see how we can attack this together. That can, help your fan base and not make you look like a guy who's always apologetic after you've made these statements that
look like a fool.
That's right.
Okay, I'm just
You can't look like a fool.
Well, listen, Fred, we appreciate you joining us, man, and you're invited anytime you want to come on, of course, across the states. Like I said before, living legend, we're kind of geeking out right now, but thank you so much,
This
man.
is the man.
We're going to ask your pictures at the commercial break.
Oh,
No doubt.
100%.
No doubt.
Of course, and we want your London recommendations too, because it's your 9th time here.
Mojo,
We gotta know where to go and feel like this guy knows.
That was a good line.
Coming up.
That last segment rather, and we're going to talk power rankings, guys. We're going to talk power rankings presented by the U.S. Army. Let's get right to it. Sorry, no room for Sporty Spice. This is the Ginger Spice section. The Raiders bringing up the 32 spot. San Francisco, although they've been very scrappy, haven't put together the wins. 31. Browns down to 25. Next to the Scary Spice division. Scary Spice, if you don't mind. This is really the middle of the pack here. Cowboys hovering at 18. Seahawks 17. Jacksonville Jaguars, big game this weekend, down at 23. Moving on, please, to the Posh Spice division. We're cracking the top 10. Redskins at 10. Steelers at 9. These are the teams kind of knocking on the door of the elite. And finally, let's go to Baby Spice.
Okay,
Baby Spice.
choice.
It's my list. It's my rankings. Baby Spice. I'm a fan of the pigtails, Peter. The Rams, number 1. The Patriots, 2. Top 5 rounding out: Vikings, Chiefs, and Saints. It is my Spice Girl rankings, but it is Elliot Harrison's power rankings in the NFL. And we're looking at Bridges there, okay?
If I know anything about you, Posh is the number one.
She got 2.
Okay.
She got 2.
Babies.
You're still learning about me, Kay.
Sort of wild, as we do every week, even in New York. I almost said even in London, because I already feel like I moved here.
I hear that.
Power rank. You guys tell me your top 5 teams in the NFL. You get going because you went through the power rankings. We'll start off with Peter Schrager.
Okay, mine's another surprise at number 5. I'm going with the Vikings. Really impressive last few days. I feel like that Bills loss is a long ways away. I think the Vikings are a team to be reckoned with right now. Big game against the Saints this weekend. Number 4, let's pick up that blue screen. Saints, a great win. They looked great on the road in Baltimore. A lot of people were taking the Ravens. Saints found a way.
They're 4, okay.
3, the Chiefs.
All right.
Chiefs at home. I don't know if anyone's beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead. I've seen the Buccaneers beat the Saints in New Orleans.
What do you got under there?
2, the Patriots. Patriots, they just find a way. Patriots. And number 1, in honor of Mr. Bean, I'll go with the Rams, and that's that. And we put the Bean mask on. Rams, number 1.
Rams are number 1.
All right, I'm gonna jump right in. Wait, I wrote these wrong. Hold on, let me get my mind right.
Go on.
Time is ticking, Nate.
Okay, all right, my bad.
Tick, tick, tick,
Sorry.
tick.
Yeah, let me get right with my Mr. Bean mask. Okay, here we go. All right, let's let the list speak for itself. I'm going with the Pats at number 5, Chargers, and then we got the Saints.
I love it.
We got the Chiefs at number 2, and then we have the Rams
So
at
you've got the
number 1.
Vikings on yours, you've got the Pats on yours, the rest of them are the same. Or no, you've got the Chargers on yours. Who you got?
Simple. I'll just throw it up right now. I have the Patriots as the best team in football. Rams, Saints, Chiefs, Panthers, usual suspects. But I don't want to play the Patriots right now. They got their act together. Nate, what's going on over there? Kay, what's going on? That was so authentic. Oh, my goodness.
You actually.
It's got the Mr. Oh, baby.
I've never been more scared of.
That was so real. You get it. I never heard that sound. Oh my gosh. Rowan Atkinson.
I am